AI has proven its ROI with respect to productivity, with respect to solving some product use cases. But if you want to really reap the full benefits and take it to production, you got to think about securing those AI applications and AI work. You got to have like a tooling that helps you, like I said earlier, gives visibility and into all of these applications, how they are behaving, and helps you test these applications to find any gaps or vulnerabilities as soon as possible in the software development lifecycle. You got to have tooling that is constantly monitoring these agents. So that's so basically um, yes, keep innovating with AI, keep getting that benefits and the ROI from AI, but do it securely. So look at tooling to actually support you in that journey.
Welcome to today's episode. We have a very exciting guest, Buchi Reddy, founder and CEO of Levo AI, a company that's redefining how enterprises secure both APIs and AI systems in real time. And for those of you just joining us, this is the Intelligent Edge podcast powered by Optivara AI, where we help emerging tech companies scale smarter with AI driven go to market systems and operational efficiencies. So if you're a SaaS or cybersecurity founder looking to take your business to the next level, you're in the right place. Feel free to drop a comment below if you'd like to connect further. Hey Bushi, thanks so much for jumping on. Where are you calling in from today?
Hey, Matthew, thank you so much for having me here. I'm joining from Austin, Texas.
Awesome. And I saw the really exciting news about the United AI security platform launch recently. Very exciting stuff. If you want to give a quick sneak peek before we really dive in.
Yeah, for your audience, like I'm Buchi, founder and CEO of Levo.ai. Levo is a cybersecurity product company. We are unifying the AI and API security for enterprises. In very simple words, we help companies to protect their applications and data, whether it is the modern AI-based applications, AI agents, or the API-based applications. We've been around for a little more than 4 years. We have customers, including some Fortune 150 customers. We are pretty big in BFSI sector, including some banks and financial services.
Awesome. And I love that context. And it's clear there's been a lot of momentum right there, especially if you're making headwaves into the Fortune 100, Fortune 150. So, to make the most of our time, let me quickly walk you through how today's conversation is really going to flow. We'll start with your journey, really what inspired you to build Levo and what inspired the platform. We'll then dive into what's really happening in the API and API security space and what trends you're seeing. And after that, we'll explain what's really working well and what are maybe some of the challenges that you and the Levo team have experienced. And finally, we'll talk about where you'd like to be maybe in the next 12 to 18 months. The whole thing should be take about 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes a little longer. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, totally.
Perfect.
That's
So let's kick things off with your journey and really what's driving Levo's mission today. Can you tell us more about what really inspired you to build the Levo platform?
Yeah, totally. So I come from engineering background. I'm an engineer. I started my career as an engineer, and I have worked at several companies, and I was at AppDynamics for a few years. But I built my first API probably almost 15 plus years ago. But really, when I was at AppDynamics, when Cisco acquired AppDynamics, Cisco has a gold standard when it comes to security, right? And when they were integrating AppDynamics into Cisco, they were seriously looking at the application security posture and some of that. And my team volunteered to be the first team to go under their thorough scrutiny and learned a lot there. And the biggest thing that I realized is there's a huge gap between development and security side. And both are like, pulling in opposite ways in some cases for valid business reasons. The development want to innovate fast, whereas security wants to secure, and it may sound like they are trying to stop, but not their true intention. But they are responsible to keeping applications and data secure. So I faced it firsthand. The biggest aha moment for me was when I looked around, there were a lot of solutions which are trying to detect threats in production, but not enough was done in proactively solving application security problems. Especially the reason I use the word runtime is especially protecting running applications. I mean, I qualify that because there is like tools to scan the code and say, hey, there might be code smells or vulnerabilities here. But a running application is where you can truly find the real risk. So I saw a big gap there. That's what was a kind of mission. And when we looked under the hood, partly because it's a very difficult problem to solve. Like solving the problem was it involves a lot of engineering and all this, which we were pretty good at. So we took it as a challenge and made our mission to help all the enterprises to protect their applications and data proactively.
Awesome. And thank you for that overview. Clearly, that having that firsthand technical expertise really helped kind of formulate the need for Levo. And obviously, that we're going to continue to see impacts on the engineering that will still be required with the impact of AI and things like that. When you look at Levo today, what would you say is really your core or your biggest differentiator in the market? When you look at maybe other solutions or other attempts at solutions.
Yeah, I think every solution has their mode. What is emerging as our mode is giving very comprehensive visibility and context into an enterprise's application and helping them see what's going on there, because there's a saying in security, you can't protect what you can't see. And when you are and that full context and visibility into their entire application ecosystem, it's very hard because I call every enterprise application stack as a little snowflake in itself, because it's built by different teams, different developers. They choose different stack. They are running in different places, and solving the problem. So we have built moat in that area, and so we have a very solid, comprehensive inventory into all of enterprises AI applications, including AI agents, MCP servers, models, and APIs, at a scale that was not done previously. And we do all of it literally in minutes. Made the product super easy to be installed. So they start feeling like they are in charge. And they go from like, oh, I don't know what applications I have, what APIs and what AI agents are running in my environment, to the point where like, okay, I'm on top of it. I know everything that's happening. The and top of that context, that the which is our strongest mode, we built additional modules. So comprehensive visibility and deep context into the applications, it turned out to be our mode.
And one of the key pieces you mentioned there, right, that we're seeing from that's AI is enabling is saving that time, whether no matter what the process or function is. So it allows us to focus continually on the issues at hand and making sure that the security is there.
Yeah.
And it's a great setup because it ties directly into really how the entire security market is evolving around things like AI and constant threats that are being developed. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about some of those industry shifts that you might be seeing. So starting off, what are some of the major changes that you're seeing across API and AI security right now, and how potentially Level may be addressing those future uncertainties and shifts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think first is the vibe coding. The amount, like you must have heard, and I don't know, I would not be surprised if you had already built some applications vibe coding yourself. But the amount of code that's being written and the number of applications, how fast they are innovating has changed completely, right? Uh, and that means you have more code, more applications to be protected. So it's like, and not only that, like when AI is writing this code, like is it actually given the right context, or is it like is the code being reviewed correctly? And so there is actually, what I would say is some of the problems that APIs and microservices have started, the AI and LLMs have aggravated that problem. Like it's actually multiplied like mushrooms. Somebody was using this term, with the AI and vibe coding and all of it. The challenges. So now your applications are also going from predictable decision engines to, like, in some cases even unpredictable, or you cannot reason about. You cannot tell exactly what decision they are going to take and how they are going to take, because like we have the reasoning models that are trying to take these decisions. So that challenges that brings lots of new challenges on the application security and data security side. So you need tooling to really stay on top of the behavior of your applications and understand how they are behaving. Is there any deviations? Are there any new attacks? Is the attackers manipulating? Are they injecting crazy things into prompts? Like I think, I mean, I definitely feel for the security teams, like lots of new challenges. Fortunately, the same AI we can leverage to solve some of these problems very effectively, but the challenges are multiplied, and it's
Well, and
already here
just
today.
and just to touch on something too, you mentioned like the vibe coding, right? Have I developed anything? And I think about the ease of use of tools like maybe Lovable or some of these other tools out there. You're seeing people spin up a business in, sometimes minutes, right? And that business might be able to scale, 10 to 100 to 200x. But what is the one thing that someone that, especially someone like me, who could maybe spin that up within a very easy platform, but something I might overlook is the security aspect of that, right? And so when you're trying to scale some of these platforms or build your own, vibe coding application, security becomes very important because now you're asking organizations to trust a source where, quite frankly, someone like me would never have been able to do before. So I'm not familiar with all the risks and attacks that I might encounter.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges are multiplied. Even when these applications are built by the engineers and people who have been coding for a while, also like the because of the scale, right? Like there's like PRs, where you use AI to code the number of lines. I mean, we do it ourselves. We are going through this. We also extensively leverage the AI agents as part of the coding and building features and all of this, right? We see the shift ourselves. Like the PRs, like. Uh, get like much bigger right now because like there is a lot more documentation, a lot more test cases and everything. And it's easy to miss things in such large payloads. I'll give one example that I was just reading, right? Like recently, some obviously I cannot name the company, but somebody rolled out a nice little agent in a HR application um, to answer questions, and then after that they started noticing few weeks, like few days after that, like they started noticing that people were like putting down papers, resigning and leaving. And then it actually turned out that agent did not have proper security and some of his authorization, all of that was also not properly checked. And everybody was able to see everybody else's salary. Like, okay, I can just ask the question, hey, give me my salary. No, I can actually ask the question, give me Matthew's salary. Now I know your salary. And I was like, what the hell? Like, Matthew is my colleague and I'm getting only 50% of his pay. I was like,
and
so
that
that is one example. Like this, so that going back to your original question, the challenges for security teams have multiplied with the AI and LLMs in place, and we are trying to do our part to help enterprises to get handle on that.
and obviously that's an internal issue that could cause a lot of expense from trying to hire new people while at the same time fixing that. But obviously the potential risk becomes even greater when you think about the clients that you're targeting, right? Those big Fortune 100, Fortune 150 financial institutions, they can't afford those risks, and we're seeing breaches quite frequently in all different industries. So the ongoing threats just keep coming with AI. So it's how do we stay ahead of that? And obviously there's the rise of AI agents and LLM driven applications. How is that continuously evolving and requiring organizations to really adjust or enhance their enterprise security requirements?
Yeah, I think it's requiring the organizations to look at new tooling to handle something that they are not familiar with. And even the tooling also, I would say, like it's been evolving so fast that I would say even the tooling itself is in pretty early stages, but still like there is like some pretty decent tooling out there to start getting a handle on all the AI applications, AI agents, LLMs, and all of these things. What worries me the most about this is not just the more number of attacks, it is the magnitude or the magnitude of these attacks that could happen. Like, the they could be much bigger, more impactful than the previous ones.
Especially when if you potentially look at federal or any type of infrastructural organization, when we think about the attacks on, we'll just say like energy or anything like that, these are security is becoming much more critical. And a lot of our audience members and kind of personas that clients, cybersecurity clients are engaging with, right? It's usually a CISO or an engineering leader. How would you really start to position Levo to a CISO that may be listening today?
Yeah, I would say basically, AI has proven its ROI with respect to productivity, with respect to solving some product use cases. But if you want to really reap the full benefits and take it to production, you got to think about securing those AI applications and AI workloads. So you got to have like a tooling that helps you, like I said earlier, gives visibility and into all of these applications, how they are behaving, and helps you test these applications to find any gaps or vulnerabilities as soon as possible in the software development lifecycle. You got to have tooling that is constantly monitoring these agents. That's so basically, um, yes, keep innovating with AI, keep getting that benefits and the ROI from AI, but do it securely. So um, look at tooling to actually support you in that journey. And yeah.
Perfect. And I know that Levo has had a lot of success, kind of international markets and starting to branch more into the US market. Obviously, there's different regulations and governance in every different country. How are you seeing those regulations and governance influence demand? Let's say particularly in the BFSI sector or the finance sector.
Oh, they definitely help. Like so one of the unique things about security products is like it's like our dental hygiene, right? Like you brush it if you are really caring for your hygiene, but in some cases, unless somebody is forcing, uh, it's like you don't do it. Like actually, it's so funny. I was just listening to a other podcast yesterday, and it said that during the November timeline, DoorDash has reported that there is a big spike in the toothbrushes because this is the winter time where people are getting together and people want to brush and like have a nice breath when they are getting like basically when unless there is a forcing function, sometimes the security could be seen as a cost center or could take backseat. And to your point, the regulated industries when because they are actually educating all the regulated companies and giving clear mandates that okay, you got to do certain things to protect yourself and your business from these things, and they are helping create the tailwinds for us in these markets in the BFSI sector across the countries, across the globe. Whether it is like in India, we have like the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, putting the mandate on here. The central bank actually starting to say APIs are assets, and similarly, whether it is GDPR or DPDP Act, what like all these privacy related compliances or governances as well as like any financial and insurance related matter.
And those will continue to shift. I'm if not daily or weekly with the state of
Yes.
things
I
in the
mean, same is
economy.
happening with the AI as well. In AI also, there is some new governance. The different states are trying to put some new governances apart from country or central level. And these all are helping. I think they go hand in hand also. Like I actually see some of these compliances or governances learning from the innovation that comes up in the cybersecurity. All of these go together, right? There is new architectures, new applications, new patterns. There's new attacks getting launched. Like for example, when we all moved to cloud, like lots of attacks started happening on cloud, and there is whole cloud security innovation has happened. And then governing bodies started putting or giving more better guidance to the governed companies based on like how do you secure your cloud. I think all of this goes hand in hand, and we are seeing the same for AI security as well.
And I can say we're probably heading into one of the most vulnerable seasons for banks, for retail, for as the holiday season approaches. There's a lot of money going back and forth. There's a lot of data going back and forth. So now is the time to be protected. Now, I'd love to bring it back to Levo for a moment. You've been through several growth phases. I'd really love to kind of understand or hear from you what's working right now and where you're seeing maybe some friction. So I'd love to start just what's worked really well for Levo today.
Yeah, I think some of those early wins and really helping the customers be successful and then them spreading about us word of mouth was really helpful. And that's how we got a whole bunch of customers. We pay a lot of attention to the existing customers and solving the problem really well. And that has served us well. And I think the challenge is like when you for scaling, you got to have brand visibility, you got to invest in GTM and all of those things. And doing that in a cost conscious way is typically a challenge. I think I mentioned to you earlier, especially in US, like you got to invest pretty heavily in GTM to actually get good success. But we have been leveraging our existing customers, the word of mouth referrals, as well as the product success.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that, right? We're trying to grow that team, but in a smart way. And so obviously when I think about what are some of the challenges, right? Maybe it's bandwidth for the actual go-to-market team and actually being able to scale the qualified sales reps that you're looking for that have that, at least for the financial sector, that have that experience because those they're so relationship based. But are there any other primary challenges, whether that be awareness, pipeline, again, scaling?
The pipeline is always a challenge. Like, I mean, nobody has enough pipeline, I would say, or you always want more pipeline. And it is kind of interlinked to the awareness and some of these things. Like, if you have more awareness of it, it will make the pipeline generation easy. But the first class problem that I would say is in need of more pipeline. Yeah, I mean, we have been trying to leverage other tooling, like the AI-based tooling as well, to make the existing team a lot more productive, get whatever they are doing, get them do much faster and much better by leveraging AI. And that has been helping, but pipeline is always a challenge.
And I'm curious to understand a little bit more how the team might be leveraging it. We're all familiar with maybe the Chat GPT and some of these tools, but have there been any tools that have stood out in terms of making your sales team that you have more effective, or have really been kind of key in terms of trying to build that US pipeline?
Frankly, I was a bit surprised. A lot of these tools in the sales tech have not been delivering to the level that we expect or people expect. We have tried a couple of tools, but because like everybody's sales, the GTM playbook and the ICP and the messaging, all of that could be different. And I definitely uh, like was not super impressed with the bunch of sales tech outcome. And what we are doing internally is actually like this is where even our business development team working closely with we even have like a couple of engineers helping our business development team, almost like tag teaming and building tools. Like we have our own small tools, like essentially to automate certain steps of the GTM process by leveraging AI. And we are seeing much better results there because we are like we can control it much better. We know our ICP, we know our messaging. Our team has been doing it for a bit, and it's a lot more easy to automate that small step of it. That has been our experience. Again, having said that, we haven't tried all the tools under the earth, but there's only so many you can try, and you cannot keep on changing the sales tech stack, or sales stack that easily, right? But we found better success with this, and we are doubling down on that, like you said earlier, right? Um,
Yeah, and as we
Hello?
mentioned earlier, vibe coding means there could be a new go-to-market app in the next 20 minutes if someone's working on it. So there's something new, and it's about not only the tool, but it's how do we orchestrate those tools together to actually build a go-to-market funnel that works. And especially when you're dealing with industries like the finance, you can't be sending out the mass in email or go-to-market strategies. It's got to be that personalized attempt and the personalized touch because those people are built purely on relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think gone are those days like where you can actually load up the load up the email sending tool with like 10,000 contacts and send it. Like nothing like that works today. So you have to build the relationships, and you have to do extensive research on them to understand if they actually are going to need this, or even if they are going to need it, like what would be really important for them. So that's where again, I mean, I wish there was this, magic wand where I say that the tool exactly works for our environment. But like s- uh, selecting some of the narrow problems and automating them with the AI has been actually more helpful for us. So that's where we actually have not one or two, but almost like 8 to 10 small tools that automate a certain step of the process and make it easy uh, at this point.
Yeah, it's the different orchestration layer. It is really critical to make sure it's an actual working go-to-market program. Now, obviously, that you've mentioned the team is really looking to focus on the U.S. There's just more money you've shared, and bigger opportunities. How are you going to track the success of that expansion into the U.S. market, and maybe what are some of the things that the Levo team is tracking to make sure that we're on pace?
Well, I mean, we definitely have our target revenues, and we ultimately we want to get into Fortune 50 and so the biggest BFSI sector companies. That's predominant. We are in other sectors also. We just closed a healthcare company also as a customer. So we are getting into other sectors as well, but it's very big in BFSI because of the regulations and the compliance and governance needs that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I mean, we are, I see the we are selling to very large enterprises. We are not looking at like, thousands of customers. It's not that volume. Rather, like we have to go at certain companies and do really well and convert them as your champions. So we believe in that like organic growing. So we attend events, we attend conferences, we attend meetups. We have quality conversations with people on the ground across the board. Me and our team, sales team, and marketing team, everybody is trying to do the same. So we are trying to grow that organically. Of course, in addition to that, we have like the typical LinkedIn outreach and some of these things. People have a need and raising it.
And typically, when I am working with founders, in early stages, they're also considering a form of like a channel partner strategy, really
Yes,
because they can leverage the sales teams of those bigger channels and also get more awareness. Is that a path that the team is considering or
yes,
is
yes.
already are?
We have already made huge strides in the partnership. Actually, like last more than that, the last 9 months, we have gone from like 100% direct selling into like we're almost like I think pretty large number in channel partners, and we are continuing to add more channel partners. And we had good success even internationally also through channel partners, like in India, Middle East, and we just added a couple of more partners from Southeast Asia as well. Like in fact, the partners have been very helpful for us to get into more and more doors.
And are there specific partners that you may target in case they may be listening today?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. All the big cybersecurity partners in the US are like potential partners. I think some of them, when we spoke, they were working with some of our competitors, but some of them are actually even, on the way out as well from this competing vendor. So we are actually trying to get in there. But like whether it, like you take Optive, Guidepoint, or all the other smaller resellers, WAPs, WADs, all of those are potential partners. We just onboarded a big partner in Middle East called EVAD. In India, we have like pretty large partners, both distributors as well as the reselling partners. So we're continuing to add more to the list.
Awesome. And when we're dealing with the financial industry, I know, or any cybersecurity solution, there can often be um, kind of concerns around sharing a customer win story or a use case that's really sticks out. But I would love to at least give you the opportunity if you want to share a recent win or just a result that you've been able to deliver for a customer that you think the audience would really enjoy or gain value from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, like you said, generally it's not a good practice to share the names, and we don't even have permissions to reference them publicly. A lot of our customers, but like very large company, and so they wanted to release uh, vulnerability-free applications and APIs to production. And the problem is there is no inventory. They don't know how many APIs are there. And every time they go to their pen testing team, either internal or external, like they start asking the basic question, okay, give me the documentation. It's like it's been a very difficult problem. And when they came to us, like obviously that's exactly what we started solving. The best part was as like even in the proof of value itself, as soon as we installed, like within 24 hours, we found more than 15,000 APIs. And in a couple of days, like the API count was like almost north of 40,000 API count and API endpoint. And we are ready to actually start testing them at scale and help them completely release the software with the confidence that the APIs are vulnerability free. Like I mean, I've seen various cases, especially going back to my original point about more we built. We actually made this product to be super easy to insert, and the value also is instantaneous. Like you'll start seeing the inventory in real time. I have so many cases where like literally in POVs, like the inventory count is increasing like a stock symbol. And this is what like my team and I, we are almost addicted to seeing it at this point. Like every time we do a POV, we are like sitting there and just refreshing every few minutes to actually see the stock symbol ticking. So yeah, so going from like, just having a problem, but installing and literally in couple of hours going to the level where like, oh my God, that completely changes the world. If you think about it, you can never go back, right? You went from like, okay, I don't know all my asset inventory to like, I know literally thousands of APIs that are in my company, and I can test and find vulnerabilities in all of them with a click of a button. It's completely life changing. And
It
we
sounds like, oh, go
continuously
ahead.
trying to improve the product and experience in that direction. So, but this is the experience in one of the largest financial companies that happened very recently.
And it sounds like the way I interpret that as well as very short runway time for actually implementing the solution and very fast time to value. And
Yeah.
so an incredible story, and I'm sure it sounds like you have plenty more, which really sounds like Levo's at an inflection point, right? The product is maturing, the market is expanding. You're gearing up really now to just scale and just grow as fast as you can. Looking ahead to what's next, where would you want to be in the next 12 to 18 months? What's that North Star that you're kind of working towards?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately we want to sell to Fortune 50 companies and like probably become the de facto AI security product that large enterprises and BFSI sector is using, I would say. But in addition to that, we want to grow our revenues, maybe 3 to 4x in the next 12 to 18 months. And we are actually on track to do that this year. And like keep building. Like I personally think like as applications are changing, the new threats and all of this is continuously evolving, and we have to be ready. The world has to be ready to tackle it on. So there's always going to be constant stream of challenges, and Levo wants to be at the forefront of it. I think our shift from API to AI actually happened at the right time. I think we can't be more lucky. We have been around for a little more than 4.5 years, and we had a strong API security product, and some of our customers were actually seeing their AI workloads and the AI API calls in our product already. And they were like, hey, you're already seeing some of my AI applications. Can you help me with by giving some more visibility into the AI applications, or like give me some governance and all this? And that's how we naturally expanded. So we were at the right time, I would say, to catch that. But I can see that as these AI applications are evolving and as more and more AI is being adopted, we have a lot more features to be built. Frankly, like we are not able to build fast enough, even with leveraging AI coding agents and all of it at this point, for the demand and the kind of features that customers are asking. And that's a great position to be in, to be frank. Like, you know, anytime I would always want to build what customers are asking. So that's the North Star. Like, we want to be the de facto AI security product that we help in the BFSI sector and keep growing the company.
And just to recap from a couple of the earlier points as well, right? You've mentioned the way we're going to 3 to 4x is we need to get kind of more investment into the US. What does that look like? Is there plans to bring on a certain amount of reps? Are we, what does that project look like?
Yes, I think we have from last quarter we have been starting to see the early signals of early PMF. That's what I've been waiting for to scale. I think we are pretty close to actually crossing that, and we will be actually adding more reps and doubling down. In fact, we already have a job post up, and we are looking for somebody, but we are planning to expand in the US pretty significantly in the coming quarters.
Awesome. Is there anything that you could see potentially impacting your ability to get to that 3 to 4x in terms of, anything that's you could see, potentially challenging or anything that again might delay us from
Yeah,
hitting that goal?
hiring such reps, training them is time taking, and there is always this risk, right? Like especially unless you have worked with them in the past, like the fitment and like how best is the fit. it's always challenge. So there is definitely risk, and how quickly you can hire them. Especially at early stages, you need like the best of the best people who are like very familiar in the startups, right? Like some of the large company experiences may not exactly translate directly here. So it is a very challenge, and we have gone through it. Like every person that I've been hiring and I've hired so far, like I talk to them, I interview them myself, and we assess them for culture, fitment, everything. So it's pretty challenging, and hiring and growing the team takes a lot of time, and I personally spend at least 30% of the time, if not more, in this. Of course, hiring across the company I'm talking about. We
And I
have
can
grown
imagine,
last 12 months. I think we doubled our company size.
but at 30% of your time on recruiting sounds like a lot. And has the team looked at maybe how can we decrease Bucci's time, spent finding the right candidate, and maybe focus on just the interview part so that we can, because there's obviously so much that you're focused on in a given day.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm not saying 30% purely just looking at the resumes or looking for the candidates. It includes the onboarding and nurturing and all of that as well. We do definitely. We even leverage external help to actually screen the candidates or like even get the pipeline for hiring and all as well. Like, but it's not just that, right? Like even when they come and join, like they have to understand our ICP, understand the problems of our customers, so that when they are in the field, when they are talking to the customers, they are actually what they say resonates with the customer, and they are not talking something that doesn't make sense. So there's a lot of time onboarding and helping them understand as well. Unless we are hiring somebody from another AI security company,
Yeah.
there is going to be some good amount of learning, and so at this point, I'm involved in some of that as well.
Awesome. And just to recap for our audience, obviously some very aggressive growth goals for that we are expecting to meet, right? 3 to 4x, and we continue to see that expand in the U.S. Continuously developing products, and I don't know if you want to give any sneak previews or keep everything under the hood for now on any potential products coming out or releases. I'll leave that to you for a second if there's anything you want to kind of share from what's next from a product standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think okay, we'll keep it under the wraps. We are definitely starting to use a lot more AI, and we in our own product, and what we have been doing also, we are almost releasing a V2 of some of our existing modules also by leveraging AI natively. That has been one trend for last few features and modules that we released. But on top of it, we are doubling down in the AI security, especially around governance and visibility area that's constantly coming in as a ask from our customers and prospects.
Awesome. I really thank you for all of the overview, the insights, and a little behind the scenes into Levo AI and some of the industry expertise that you've been able to share. I always love to ask if you could leave the audience with one key takeaway. This could be personal, this could be a key statement on Levo. What would that be?
Well, I think that's a very generic question, but it depends on the audience, what kind of audience. It could be different for different people, but generally, one, in the spirit of cybersecurity, that I would say is basically like, let's all watch out for the security posture of our applications, our the data, how it's being dealt with, whether you are a developer who is developing, or whether you are a security person, or whether you are a consumer, even a consumer, like, be mindful of like where you are sharing your information, what kind of websites that you are giving it to, and all this. Especially for the enterprises, the builders, I would say like, the AI has like building with AI is fun. I love it. Like, I mean, it's almost addictive sometimes, to be frank, because you can do magical things with it, but also think about the security implications of those applications and the data that they are dealing with and what they could do.
Thank you. And I always like to have that one hot seat question, and it perfectly answered. And this has been awesome, Bucci. Again, you've given us a look under the hood, or a little bit under the hood, more behind the scenes of what's going on at Levo, and how you guys are planning to scale. And we're excited. And I really enjoy talking to any cybersecurity agency because I know that the end result is they're protecting potentially businesses from getting my data or from bad actors getting my data from those businesses. So it's always great. I love to wrap up, with some potentially next steps, and I'll make sure that our listeners have access to, what maybe it's a pre-recorded demo or your contact information should they learn more. Um, Really, again, thank you for your time and excited to get this to our audience. Um, I will keep it recording right now, but from here on out, it's just kind of discussion. I know we're approaching 3 o'clock, so I just wanted to be aware of time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matthew. First of all, thanks for this time and the opportunity to be on this. Really appreciate
Awesome.
it.
And sounds like the journey has been incredible so far. And I know you have a lofty goal of 3 to 4x. We've talked about it's scaling the team, right? I think you had mentioned in our previous call looking at potentially a funding round. Do you have kind of an idea of when you'd like that, achieved?
Yeah, I think we're looking at maybe starting it in like we probably will do the prep work, but we'll start it in Q1 of next year. So I think the real challenge is, Matthew, what I've seen, especially now in the current uncertain funding climate, or especially some of the growth, growing it with the reasonable capital has become the real thing. Either you have to be one of those like hot shot companies which raise a lot of money that is available at your disposal to grow, or otherwise, if you want to be mindful and especially if you are thinking long term, I always am a big fan of like keeping it keeping the cash and everything the burn under control, doing things consciously rather than just throwing money at the problem, right? In some cases, you cannot even solve it with the money, but in some cases, like sustainability is super important. So we are thinking that way. I think even so on those lines, like I contemplated multiple things, like can we hire remote sales reps, or can we, or do they need to be in person? Like I keep thinking about this, like where maybe even if, like for example, I hire them in Austin to sit with me in office, even if I have to pay a little bit extra, that might still pay off if they are like really sitting with me and iterating much faster compared to a remote rep. Versus like I have been hearing strategies about people hiring in India or Philippines and some of these places as well. I also went through this outsourcing. Like initially, we tried like outsourcing the business development work to somebody, some agencies, and some of these things. We have had some results, but there is also other learnings. So went through all of it. Right now, I think the challenge, in my opinion, if I have to be very honest, the biggest challenge is actually hiring. Now I'm kind of leaning towards our next sales rep in US. I want to have them in person here in office with me, and hiring such person, hiring a right person for a reasonable cost is the biggest challenge that we have, in my opinion. One. The second one is like this AI, like you're saying. I mean, you cannot keep on building duct tapes like small things here and there. It's actually very borderline questionable, right? Like whether is that the best investment of our time, especially if there is a tool that is off the shelf that is available, if it is able to solve, it's better to use that than build it ourselves, because that could have been potentially battle tested or might be used by other customers. So these are the two things that I'm going through at this point. Like one, how do I hire a rock star sales rep who's going to be
Yeah.
here in Austin with me, and that changes the game completely for us. One, to start with, and maybe more later. Two, how do we need to keep building some of these one-off tools, or is there something that is better that can actually leverage AI and solve our problems even better with respect to pipeline? I'll
Yeah, and
pause
you
it.
mentioned
A long monologue.
you mentioned you had worked with an outsourced BD agency. Was that I'd love to know a little bit more about that. Maybe what did work and maybe why there were some failures or some learnings.
So this was about more than 1.5 years ago. And this was definitely pre-AI catch-up era, right? Like I mean, 1.5 years ago, definitely not this much of AI. So again, the that might change in today's world, but I think they were heavily focused on some of the customized reach out, cold calling and emailing. We got few leads, but that was also not necessarily the best. What I understood is especially in cybersecurity, it is a very long game and it's not transactional. And whereas like that relationship purely works transactional, right? Because they're always thinking about again, I mean, rightfully, like it's their business, but they are thinking about like meeting their quota or like getting certain number of meetings per month and stuff like that. But here, what we see actually working is like our in-house team. Sometimes they try to connect with somebody, and that person may not even take the meeting today, but then they keep us in mind. Sometimes we saw them coming back to us in 6 months or 9 months. So it's like I felt like this is our responsibility, and we have to keep on doing it continuously and stay on top of it. Like just delegating it may not work. That was the learning, and of course, there's always like the incentives and them really putting the efforts or doing it the right way. Also, blasting is not going to help. All these things.
Yeah. And what would success look like if you, as you develop this kind of go to market sales motion, is it, do you have a certain pipeline target you'd like to have? We'll call it monthly because typically people are not like weekly, especially in longer enterprise deals. But what would you like to set for metrics as you start to bring on some of these sales reps, or at least continue the search?
I think the deal velocity is obviously the most important thing, but you cannot achieve that unless you have good pipeline. So ultimately, the deal velocity is going to be great because that will naturally force you to get better at closing the deals. You can increase the ACVs automatically. Your team is also a lot more motivated, and you can scale the company much better. The forecasting, predictability, everything gets better, in my opinion. The deal velocity is super important, but again, that cannot happen unless you have strong pipeline. That's where I always say like every company can use more pipeline, of course. This like if I have to optimize for one metric or watch out one thing, I want to watch out the deal velocity very clearly.
Yeah, and I'm curious what, and again, it may be different per country. What would you say the average deal length is, at least in the U.S. Because I know that's where the big focus is.
Yeah, it is different per country, and here we are going after like the elephants as we call them as like in some cases it is like 9 to 12 months, but it has come down. Like in some of these companies, we have been able to close in less than 6 months as well. So for mid companies, it is coming down because we have kept on optimizing the process and the product both. So that helped us. Like in some cases, we closed less than 3 months also.
Got it. And one thing, this is a kind of a freebie from my Gartner time, and I may have mentioned it, but one thing that I've seen really help organizations with longer sales cycles cut them down is building out something called a buyer's guide. So this is essentially a guide that teaches your potential buyer how to buy Levo.
Okay.
And so I'd be happy to try and find the framework for that, if I can get it. I did just put like an example one for someone else recently, and it was a huge hit. And obviously, I don't have Gartner access anymore, but I can try and do it from memory. But something that can help. And if you'd be open to it, so one of the specialties I help with, um, my clients, is obviously around go to market execution. And I'm not just providing, one or two tools and saying, all right, here's the tools, log in and do it. I really like to partner and actually help deliver those results. So I'd be happy to share a couple of ways I'm doing that over a 12-month period with other clients. Um, but then there's some other areas that I think people have leveraged us for automation, and that's on the recruiting, the onboarding side, to really give you that time back to focus on those executive level priorities. So if that's something you'd be open to over like a 20 to 30 minute call, maybe later next week or the week after, would that work for you?
I would like to know what that is for sure. But maybe not in the next 1 2 weeks. I think I'm still working on some of the budget and all of these things. Like I think I mean, I'll come back if it is sooner than that. But I have a couple of events that I'm attending later this week, and also next week I have a large like customer meeting, like a quarterly business review that we are working on. But I think maybe third week of November probably is a better choice. And I would like to know what you're offering for sure, because
Yeah,
that
and
is a challenge.
that's the goal. And right, I understand you want to, especially if you're looking at funding, right? They want to see growth and growth numbers. So I don't want to delay you until January. I want to make sure if I can help you source some of that pipeline. And through a partnership, I can. So if I were to put maybe this same time on that third week of November, what's that, the 19th?
Yeah, let me check my calendar very quickly. Yeah, I think that should work.
All right, and that we started at 2 o'clock, so I'll send over a calendar invite. But again, thank you for your time and for the podcast. What I'll do is it's through Riverside, so I'll send over the full recording once it's complete. I'll put a LinkedIn post, but anything I generate, I will share with you prior because I want to make sure it's the wording that you want, and then I'll send you it. Riverside actually puts together a lot of clips, so I can share you quick clips. But any other final questions?